You are not the I am. If it appears, it isn't you. The clean glow of being, the lofty witness who watches thoughts come and go, even the voice that says, I am awareness. All of these are masks lit up on the screen. This film cuts through each layer. Person witness pure being, what is prior to consciousness, the absolute that needs no name. We're not against practice. We're against misidentification, the ego's habit of moving houses and calling the new address liberation. We'll test the killer question, who is aware of the witness? Track why waking and dream run on one projector, and show how clarity makes work sharper and love cleaner. Thoth's medicine is ruthless clarity. Use appearances to recognize what no appearance can touch. If it starts, it isn't you. If it changes, it isn't you. If it can be described, it's already on the screen. You stop playing the character and start watching the character, and it feels like escape. The emotions still move, but the watcher doesn't get wet. There's a clean perch above the storm. For a while, this is oxygen. You name the sensations, let them pass, and sit as the witness. It feels like transcendence because the room gets quiet and the screen sharpens. But look carefully, the witness is still lit on the same screen. If you can point to it, this knowing vantage, this high seat, it's already being seen. If it comforts you, it's occurring in time. If it narrates your freedom, it arrived late to the scene and grabbed the pen. There are drills for catching this jump in real time, how identity slips from actor to narrator without leaving the theater. We share those off-record drills in our free newsletter, the ones we can't publish on YouTube. Use the link in the description, enter your email, and for a limited time, you'll receive a free ebook copy of our book. The psyche is brilliant at preservation. When one mask gets questioned, another volunteers for the role. I'm not the body-mind. I'm the witness. Feel the little exhale, the sense of altitude, the tidy story of being above it all. That tidy story is the tell. The seer you can describe is already being seen. The eye that says, I am awareness, has drawn a boundary, and boundaries are objects, even if they're subtle. If the witness is noticed, it is already an object. In meditation, you can feel it as a half-second lag. The watcher arrives a moment after the scene and claims authorship. I saw that. I remained untouched. That claim is the giveaway. The witness is a function within consciousness, a stance of attention that stands behind the movie and narrates continuity. Useful? Yes, until it becomes a new headquarters. Headquarters implies center, and a center quietly manufactures an edge. Edge implies outside, which implies threat, which rearms defense. The costume changed. The job description didn't. Try a small scene. You're in a conversation that spikes. The body floods. The old habit is to fuse with the surge and fire back. The evolved habit is to climb to the balcony and watch the animal react. Better, but still an identity. Now do the third move. Notice that the balcony itself is appearing, felt as quiet, distance, control. Who is aware of that balcony? Don't answer mentally. Check directly. The instant you look for the one holding the perch, there is only luminous, unowned, noticing. The watcher collapses into seeing, and seeing needs no owner. Relief shows up without a victorious story. This isn't a condemnation of witnessing, it's a refinement. The witness is a pointer that thins reactivity. It buys you a gap, lets the nervous system settle, keeps you from rehearsing the same argument for a week. But turn a pointer into a person and you've reforged the chain in shinier metal. The mind loves stable seats. They keep your narrative coherent and your image predictable, so it recruits the witness as a respectable self-calm, superior, above the mess. That fragrance is the trap. Superiority is separation in perfume. Real clarity has no altitude. It moves with what is, because it doesn't need to be above it. Mechanically, what's happening is simple. Attention can take a stance, merged, resisting, or observing. Each stance is still a modulation within consciousness. Anything that can be adopted can be dropped. Anything you can do cannot be what you fundamentally are. The good news is that this is testable in ordinary life. As you walk, find the stance of the witness and hold it for 5 steps. Feel the quiet superiority, the distance, the sense of, I am steady. Now, relax the stance and let sounds, colors, breath, and footsteps have you without a center. In both cases, experience flows. In neither case do you find an owner. Why does the witness feel so convincing? Because it keeps a thin thread of control. It says, I choose my responses, and the body gets a sedative. But control is the most expensive addiction the person carries, and the witness is control in silk. When life violates your preferred posture, a child screaming, a deadline snapping, a pain you can't tidy, the witness clenches. That contraction is the identity showing its teeth. Freedom doesn't clench. What doesn't clench isn't a stance. It has no opposite and needs no position. So the practice is this, without becoming a trophy. Keep checking who owns the vantage. Watch for the half-second claim. Every time the sense, I, as the witness appears, ask, who is aware of even this? Don't hunt an entity. Look for the place where the question falls through. What remains is not a seat, not a character, not even a perspective. It is the simple light by which both character and witness are seen. For now, you can call it awareness and let the word work on you. In the next turn, we'll press the question further, because even that clean glow of I am rises and sets, and what you are cannot depend on sunrise. We pressed on the witness, and it folded back into simple seeing. Now press on the clean glow itself, the bare sense, I am. It feels primitive, pre-verbal, prior to every story. Sit still and you can taste it as a soft hum of being before any role comes online. Many make this the summit, abide as being, and refuse every thought that tries to stick a name on it. That move is medicine, until you look closely at the timing. The hum begins. Each morning proves it. An alarm, a stir, a second where nothing is yet arranged. Then warmth, beingness, boots. I am, loads memory, location, preferences, a to-do list, a face. By noon, you are threaded into a life that feels continuous. But continuity is an inference stitched from frames. Deep sleep exposes the seam. In the night, there are stretches with no hum, no witness, no prayer. You do not report them while they happen. You only notice their footprint and absence remembered as rest. If being can be absent, it cannot be what you are. Nisargadatta's cut is ruthless and tender at once. Before I am, what are you? Don't answer with a concept. Watch the edge where beingness appears. You cannot catch the exact moment of booting, the way you cannot see a screen light from off to on if your eyes are closed. You only register the lit room. That inability is a clue. The observer, the being, the thought, each is already content when you notice it. The noticing has no timestamp. What has a timestamp cannot be you. You may say, but I feel I am most of the day. Surely that is my truth. Check its textures as hours pass. In the morning it is fresh and quiet. Under stress it buzzes, contracted around a task. In deep rest it thins until it feels like a wide sky. The sense of being fluctuates with the body's chemistry. Sleep debt, food, fear, joy. The absolute does not surge and dip with breakfast. The absolute has no weather. Anything with weather is downstream. Another scene, a brief anesthetic at the dentist. There is awareness of a ceiling, a sentence, a countdown, and then a clean cut. Afterwards, there is recollection and a new scene. No one traveled from one to the other carrying a lamp, the lamp of I am, simply resumed. You infer continuity because recollection knits frames into a story. That story is useful. It helps you navigate. It is not proof that beingness is your core. Core doesn't need reboot. This is not a war against the instruction to stay with the sense I am. As Siddharameshwar taught, it is a laboratory hold to being. Become familiar with it, and you will see that even this purity is an object appearing in you. The point is not to despise beingness, but to stop marrying it. When you rest as the simple glow and a thought says, "This is me," ask one quiet question. Who recognizes this glow? The answer is not a word. It is a falling through no owner, no center, light without a lamp. Language will make mischief here if you let it. Prior to consciousness is a pointer, not a coordinate. Don't go hunting a new state behind states or a special darkness you can collect. The prior is not an experience. You cannot turn towards it the way you turn towards the Sunday. You only recognize that every turn, every recognition, every I am is already occurring in it, like calling electricity behind the bulb. It isn't behind, it is the condition of the bulb. Switch off the lamp, and the room is still a room. The electricity hasn't vanished because the bulb went out. Does this make life less vivid? The opposite. When you stop pitching a tent in the glow can be anything: grief, laughter, traffic, prayer, and there is nothing to protect. Work gets simple because there is no one trying to certify existence with performance. Love gets cleaner because there is no one managing a self-image. Response replaces strategy. You don't have to maintain a spiritual altitude when existence is not your identity. Notice the relief that creeps in as you test this. No fear of losing myself in sleep or in a task or in intimacy. What is, you cannot be lost. Only a stance can be lost, and beingness is a stance of the light. Let it arise as it does. Let it fade as it does. The seeing of its rise and fall is already free of rise and fall. That seeing is not an achievement. It has no opposite. If I am is the lamp that lets the movie play, then waking and dream are simply two reels running on the same projector. Treat them as one display, and the grip loosens without you going numb. That is where we go next. How the mechanism of dream clarifies the day, not to escape the film, but to stop wrestling the screen. We said the lamp of being lets the movie play. Now look at the projector itself. At night, a chase unspools and you run for your life. The alarm cuts in and you laugh because the tiger was a dream. By lunch, an email pings and your chest tightens the same way. Different costumes, same surge, one engine. Consciousness flashes frames, color, sound, thought, body, and a story is inferred between the frames. Inside a frame, the character swears it is real. Step half a beat back and you see a film run. Treating life as dreamlike isn't denial, it is calibration. It refuses the extra tax you pay for, insisting that the current frame must be true in the way you fear. Dreams teach the trick. In a nightmare, the body believes. In the morning, the belief dissolves without a committee meeting. That collapse is available at noon. When the surge arrives, check what is actually given. Sensation, image, thought. The interpretation, "This ruins my future," or "I am unsafe here," is narration layered after the fact. See the narration as optional. When the story drops, the body still breathes and the scene remains workable. Mechanically, the parallels are practical. The brain is a prediction machine. It fills gaps to maintain a coherent sense of world and self. In REM sleep, it builds a virtual theater with no external input. By day, it does something similar with a heavier stream, stitching perception with memory and expectation. Either way, continuity is inferred. If continuity is inferred, sincerity is not proof. The heart can pound for a tiger that does not exist and for an inbox that does not matter. The chemistry is honest but not authoritative. Adrenaline does not certify truth. This is not permission to drift into passivity, to chant, "Nothing is real," and skip your rent. Dreamlike does not mean weightless. You still return the call, send the email, change the tire on the motorway. The point is to act without the adhesive of personal drama. In a lucid dream, you can steer without panic precisely because you know what you are in. Daytime lucidity is similar. You pick up the child, apologize for the tone, say no to the meeting, and none of it needs to certify your identity. Action remains. Theater falls away. Use a small exercise. Tonight, when you wake from any dream, before the storyline returns, sit for 30 seconds and name what is present. A field of awareness, breath, maybe a sound. Note how quickly the mind tries to stitch the frames. Tomorrow, at noon, when the thread of a worry starts tightening, pause for 10 seconds and do the same inventory. In both cases, you are locating the projector rather than wrestling the frame. The projector does not resist, it illuminates. A common worry arrives here. If I see life as dreamlike, will I care less? In practice, the opposite tends to land. Caring is easier when there is no self-image to defend, because you are not proving that you are competent, spiritual, or right. Attention is free to track what helps. You hear nuance in your partner's voice you missed when you were busy being the hero. You notice the clean boundary that prevents a week of resentment. Compassion stops being a project and becomes the natural weight of the place it's heart. Another scene. You are on a late train. 2 teenagers are loud. A man is scrolling. A woman is crying quietly. And your phone shows an email that could rearrange next month. In the old habit, you collapse into a tunnel. My life is at stake. In the witness habit, you step to the balcony and watch anxious me react. Better, but still a role. In the dreamlike habit, you soften the center and let the carriage be a moving screen. Sound, color, thought, breath. You answer the email if needed. You say nothing, or you speak simply. The payoff is not mystical. When you do not believe the frame too hard, you stop adding frames of rumination after the event ends. The argument does not replay for 4 hours. The mistake does not recruit a week of self-punishment. You save energy you used to burn on maintaining a personal mythology, and that energy returns to what is in front of you. The work gets more precise because you are working, not narrating. Love gets saner because you are with a person, not a projection you are trying to edit. Does anything get lost? The romance of crisis, maybe. The identity built on being overwhelmed, perhaps. What replaces it is quieter. Responsiveness. Dreamlike does not shrink responsibility. It removes theater from it. From here, techniques have their rightful place, useful tools, not trophies. That is the next snare to expose, how the mind turns pointers into possessions and builds a spiritual self out of methods. You start to feel better and you want proof, so you collect it. Minutes logged, streaks, retreat bracelets, a photo beside a teacher. The shelf becomes a small museum of your sincerity. There is nothing wrong with any of this. Community and structure keep many of us alive, but watch how quickly the mind converts means into metals. The seeker identity loves equipment, cushions, timers, breath ratios, morning routines, forbidden foods, immaculate postures. It loves comparing notes about schools and methods and rare teachings. It loves telling the story of progress. The mechanism is ordinary. Behavior that earns approval tends to repeat. Communities reward visible effort. Apps gamify attention. Teachers sometimes without intending to praise endurance over understanding, because endurance is easy to count. The nervous system gets a drip of achievement chemistry, and the sense of me relocates into the one who practices. That relocation feels safer than the identity you had before, so you defend it. You defend it by talking about it, by decorating it, by hiding inside it when life asks for something simpler than your method can deliver. Trophies are not only certificates on a wall. The subtle version is an inner audit that never stops. Did I notice every thought? Did I stay as the witness? Was my breath even? Did I hold attention without flicker? Self-surveillance masquerades as sincerity. It keeps the spiritual me employed. If the job ends, who am I? That question frightens the very pattern we are trying to see. So we add another layer, more hours, a harder retreat, a rarer technique. The costume changes, the clench remains. This is not an attack on methods. Techniques stabilize stormy chemistry, heal trauma, train attention, and make a body safe enough to sit still. The issue is misidentification, turning a pointer into a person. A pointer works when it is used and dropped. A person must be carried into every room and defended in every conversation. You can feel the difference in your bones. After genuine practice, the world becomes workable and intimacy easier. After trophy practice, the world becomes a stage and you become a role. Watch the shape shift. Yesterday, the ego was the productive one. Today, it is the mindful one. Both are patterns advertising the same claim. I exist, I am good, and here is the proof. The proof is fragile, so the pattern keeps hunting more. This is why the chase for special states gets sticky. A bliss, a vastness, a clean silence lands and a story is pasted on it. This is enlightenment. This is mine. I will recreate it. Now every session is a negotiation with memory. You start managing conditions, food, sleep, incense, playlists like a stage manager, hoping the scene returns on cue. Meanwhile, the present scene is missed. Consider the polished version, the social performance of awakening. We dress non-attachment in an aesthetic. We curate austerity. We speak in low tones and pause before answering. We mistake restraint for realization. Online, performance is rewarded. The soft face, the empty room, the caption about stillness, these collect attention. Attention reinforces the role. The role becomes a budget to balance, an image to maintain. The maintenance cost is anxiety. Real simplicity has no carrying costs. It does not need props. So, what is non-practice? Not apathy, not superiority, not the fashionable pose of nothing to do. Non-practice is practice that knows its place. You sit, you breathe, you inquire, you walk, and the instant a technique is no longer needed, you set it down without ceremony, like a crutch dropped when the leg remembers how to bear weight, like washing your hands. Useful, done, forgotten. You do not turn hand-washing into a personality. You do not make a necklace out of the soap. Test it in small ways. You begin a session with a mantra. The mind steadies. The body unclenches. A simple beingness glows that does not need the syllable. Let the syllable fall away on its own. Or you notice yourself composing a story about your spiritual steadiness while someone speaks to you. Good, the story is seen. Do not replace it with a second story about how awake you are for catching the first. Drop both. Answer the person in front of you. Clarity leaves no residue. The test is functional. Does practice return you to the ordinary with fewer compulsions and cleaner love? Then it's served. Does practice recruit more self-importance, more comparison, more fear of being found out? Then it has been hired by the same identity we thought we had outgrown. Fire it. Rehire it when needed. Techniques are staff, not kings. A pointer does not ask to be worshipped. It asks to be walked past. One more refinement. Nothing to do can become its own pedestal. A clever way to dodge discomfort and call it wisdom. If your version of non-practice avoids difficult conversations, audits nothing, and leaves wreckage for other people to tidy, that is not clarity. That is costume. The absence of method is not the presence of understanding. Understanding shows up as uncomplicated action, honest speech, and boundaries that do not perform themselves. There is one pointer we will keep on the table a little longer because it can turn the lights low enough for you to see the furniture. Stay with the sense, I am, not as a shrine, but as a laboratory. Not to accumulate hours, but to verify what is prior. Hold to being just long enough to notice that even being arises, shines, and subsides in what does not move. That is where we are headed next. How to trust a pointer without being owned by it. How to use the light to find the source the bulb cannot show. Stay with the sense I am, taken as dogma, It hardens into a slogan. Taken as an experiment, it becomes a clear room where the last disguises of me run out of places to hide. You don't chant the words. You rest in the raw fact of being pre-name, pre-role, pre-story, and you keep checking what knows it. The invitation is simple. Set everything down and notice the faint, undeniable hum of existence. No images are required. No biography needs to load. That quiet amness is like a login prompt, useful to enter, not the user who enters. At first, this feels like a return home. You sit on a chair, close your eyes, and let the day fall off. Warmth spreads across the chest, the breath unknots, and thinking thins to a translucent haze. The sense, I am, is unmistakable, and it steadies. Attention without strain. Good. Let it steady you. Then, without drama, examine its edges. Does this I am have a center? Does it have a border? Can it be held? Notice how it brightens and dims with sleep debt and coffee, with sunlight, deadlines, or a child tugging your sleeve. Anything that brightens and dims is downstream of what you are. Beingness is beautiful. It is not the bearer. The lab works best when it leaks into ordinary life. You're standing at the sink, warm water on the hands, a neighbor's radio through the wall. Before labels assemble, there is naked being. Stay with that for 3 breaths. Then let the labels arrive and do their jobs. Nothing is forbidden. On a crowded bus, in a meeting, mid-email, feel the bass note of amness under the melody of tasks. You are not trying to be special or aloof. You are verifying which notes come and go and which do not. Day by day, this verification unhooks a subtle hunger to fix yourself with states. Here is the refinement that saves years. If the I am is felt, it is already known. If it is known, it is an object. The mind argues, but this is different, this is pure, this is me. Test the claim. Who is aware of even this purity? Do not look for a figure standing behind the light. Look for the looking. The instant you check, ownership falls out of the picture. There is simply luminous noticing, with no name. Sometimes the glow is bright, sometimes it is thin. Noticing is neither bright nor thin. It is the condition for both. A brief bridge for the sincere skeptic. Practices matter. Breathwork calms a fried nervous system. Therapy unwinds history. Trauma work returns a body to safety. Yoga keeps the joints honest. None of that is being sneered at here. This project is narrower and stranger. It removes misidentification. We are not scoring virtue. We are checking facts. You can heal a wound and still wear a spiritual mask. You can be raw with pain and still be free of the mask. The pointer asks, one thing only: verify what you are not by seeing everything you can point to as known. Dependence tends to crumble in this lab. When you verify the bass note for yourself, the teacher becomes a friend rather than an owner. Scriptures stop being instruction manuals and return to being travel notes. Authority relocates from the page to presence. You can love a tradition without outsourcing your seeing to it. When confusion returns, and it will, you don't beg for borrowed certainty. You recreate the experiment. Stay with being. Check what knows it. Watch even beingness be seen. In that cycle, belief loses its glamour because experience does the talking. Beware the shrine. Staying with I am can become a velvet-lined bunker where you hide from children, deadlines, and hard conversations. If your version of abiding makes you vague, avoidant, or superior, you're not abiding, you're dissociating and calling it holy. The test is functional. After resting as being, can you answer plainly, apologize cleanly, set a boundary without theater? If not, return to the lab and lower the lighting until you can see the furniture, especially the furniture labeled spiritual self. Try a precise drill. Set a 5-minute timer. Sit. Let the sense of being reveal itself without forcing. Each time a thought sticks a label on it. This is me. This is awareness. Hold this steady. Mark the label as known and gently return to the unlabeled feel. In the last minute, switch the question. What notices this being when it fades, even for a millisecond? Don't chase, just check. The answer isn't a sentence. It is a relief, with no owner. When the timer ends, stand up and do something exact and ordinary. Wash a cup, send a message, water a plant. Integration is the proof. Notice too how the lab exposes the subtle accountant who wants to tally hours in being. That one is trying to own what cannot be owned. Counting has its place for beginners. It builds a habit, but at some point the habit must be cut at the root. If you keep a ledger of purity, you are back to trophies. Let the ledger burn. Let there be seasons, days when the glow is effortless, days when noise fills the room, nights when sleep erases the entire enterprise. What you are does not need your attendance. The lamp may go off. The room does not stop being a room. All of this tilts us toward a cleaner metaphor. If awareness is light, beingness is the first obvious illumination of a room. You can live by that light and it will serve, yet even light is something noticed. In the next turn, we'll pull the camera back once more and look at the screen itself, the field that is unstained by every scene. Personal and impersonal are only the beam's angles. The screen doesn't prefer a comedy to a storm. It shows both, without a mark. You've felt the steady glow of being, and you've noticed the watcher collapse into simple seeing. Now refine the lens further. What you call my awareness is often just attention, a torch beam you can point. Attention narrows, selects, excludes. It says, this email, not that bird. This breath, not that siren. Useful, surgical, finite. Awareness is the daylight the torch assumes. It's the condition under which torch and room and you appear at all. Daylight doesn't choose between email and bird. It allows both without strain. Personal and impersonal are two angles of the same luminosity. Personal is the beam narrowed through a body's concerns. Impersonal is the field that doesn't lean. Neither is a moral achievement. Both arise in the one light that is unmarked by what it shows. A cry in the next room will make the beam snap to a point. A walk in the woods will let it soften to a field. The light itself is neither sharp nor soft. It is the showingness of every mode. You can feel this without mysticism. Spreadsheet open, fingers on keys. The beam tightens, edges sharpen, peripheral vision dims. Someone calls your name and the beam swings. A moment later, you're laughing at a story and the field widens. On the drive home, brake lights compress the beam again. In the kitchen, chopping vegetables, attention dilates and sounds braid into one atmosphere. Through every shift, one constant remains. The fact of showing never flickers. Content morphs. The power to show does not. That's the quiet clue you've missed, because it's never been absent. This is why my awareness is a clumsy phrase. Ownership is a story the beam tells about the light. The beam is local. It rides a nervous system and borrows its flavors: caffeine, cortisol, grief, delight. The light is not local. It doesn't pick favorites, and it can't be stained. Anger appears in it like rain on a window. The window doesn't become anger. Shame streaks across it like a cloud. The sky does not become shame. This is not wordplay. It's an available check. Next time heat rises, ask quietly, where is the stain? You won't find one. You'll find sensation, image, thought, each perfectly showable. A common tangle comes from calling the beam awareness and the field awareness, then arguing which is true. The cleaner distinction is functional. Attention selects. Awareness permits. Attention can tire. Awareness cannot. You can train the beam to steady and lengthen. You cannot train daylight to be daylight. Training the beam is worthwhile. It makes work precise and conversations humane, but don't mistake training for identity. Anything that improves with practice is not what you are. What you are doesn't graduate. Notice how personal and impersonal play in love. When the beam is narrow, you listen in order to reply. Harvest, When the beam relaxes into field, you listen in order to hear. The same words land differently because the listening is different. Boundaries become cleaner because there's no theater to uphold. Saying no from the field doesn't come with performance. Saying yes doesn't come with debt. Compassion stops being heavy labor because it isn't mine to provide. Care flows the way daylight falls where it's needed, without a self-keeping score. This recognition also simplifies ethics. If light is never stained, then shame is not a sacrament you must keep. It's whether you can watch without turning away. Responsibility remains apologize, repair, learn, but the repair isn't secretly feeding a self-story. You're not trying to become pure light. You cannot become what you already are. You simply stop pretending the rain cloud can climb into the Sunday. Try a clean experiment. Sit in a busy cafe. Without effort, let the field be obvious voices, clatter, steam, warmth, the pulse in your wrist. Then, on purpose, narrow the beam to a single sound, then to breath, then to the taste of coffee. Feel the torque of selection. After a minute, relax the choosing and let the field be a field again. Nothing metaphysical happened, yet the difference is real. The sense of me inflates with the beam and deflates with the field. Neither mode is wrong. Just don't mistake the inflation for truth or the deflation for enlightenment. Modes change, light remains. Here is the relief hidden in plain sight. You do not have to stay wide to be real. That would only be a new rule for the beam to obey. Let modes change as needed, surgical at the laptop, field at the window, sharp in crisis, soft in rest, while remembering that the light is never at risk. The worst day cannot scratch it. The best day cannot finish it. This is why practices that chase a single mode exhaust you. You're trying to hold daylight in a fist. Open the hand. Let the beam work when work is needed. Then let it go slack when the scene allows. Language will still try to make a shrine out of the light. Beware the subtle pride of, I abide as awareness. If it needs a sentence, it wants a witness. Let the sentence evaporate and check the fact. Showing is happening by itself. No one is turning it on. No one is keeping it alive. The more you trust this, the less you need to posture as the one who knows. Knowledge finds its proper size, useful, limited, kind. The heart finds its proper task. Respond without a script. One more scene. A friend brings you hard news. The beam snaps tight, heartbeat in the ear, the room narrowing. You notice the tightness, and without forcing, you let the field return sounds in the hall, the weight of your feet, the color of the wall. The news doesn't change, but the posture does. You don't reach for a performance of wisdom. You ask the next honest question. You make the call you can make. The light was untroubled the whole time. Recognizing that doesn't make you passive, it makes you precise and kind. At this edge, another question appears. The key Nisargadatta throws into the last lock. If everything lit beam and field, personal and impersonal is still lit, what is prior to the lighting? Don't rush to answer. The word awareness has served well, but even light is something noticed. The screen on which light and scene appear hasn't been touched by any story. Next, we'll put the torch down and step past the daylight, not into darkness, but into the unsayable prior that needs no lamp at all. Step beyond the lamp and even the daylight. Every word you reach for here is already late, already carrying dust from the mind that lifted it. Awareness, being, presence, cleaner than most words. Yes, but still names for something noticed. The question isn't whether light is pure, it's whether you are the light, or prior to lighting itself. Nisargadatta's cut lands like a bell with no clock. Before, I am, what are you? Not a state, not a mood, not a bliss. What cannot start cannot end, and what cannot be grasped cannot be lost. We borrow metaphors to walk you to the shoreline, the screen that remains when the film stops, the room that is still a room when the lamp is off, the electricity that doesn't blush when bulbs fail. These gestures are kind but insufficient because even screen, room, and electricity are appearances in thought. The absolute is not a blankness behind forms. Blankness is just another form, an experience with texture, duration, and memory. The absolute is not an experience. It has no temperature, no flavor, no edge you can trace with attention. You cannot enter it, and you cannot leave it. You only recognize that every entry and exit happens in it. Deep sleep is the nearest usable hint. No world, no I am, no witness, and yet no injury to what you are. Waking resumes, and the lamp comes back on as if nothing happened. That absence is not the goal. It is only proof that the person and the watcher and the glow are dispensable. The mistake is to chase sleep while awake, or to collect a special nothing and call it truth. Absence and presence are two sides of a coin minted in mind. The absolute is not the coin. It is the metal that never noticed being shaped. A common fear surfaces. If there's nothing to hold, won't I vanish into indifference? Check the day you first saw the witness collapse into seeing. Life didn't dim, it brightened. In the same way, recognizing the prior does not erase color. It frees color from having to certify a self. Action continues without theater because there is no center to protect. Repair still happens, boundaries still stand, and tenderness still answers the door. Only now the movement is clean because it is not serving a story about you. How do you verify something that cannot be experienced? By noticing what every experience shares. Every state arrives as known: waking, dream, pain, bliss. The pristine I am, each is lit and each leaves. What you are does not arrive and does not leave. You cannot catch it because catching requires two, and two never gets off the ground without the quote, light already on. So the mind surrenders its tools, not by force, but because they don't reach. Concept falls quiet, not as an achievement, but as a practical admission of limits. This is where words become good servants and poor kings. Prior to consciousness, works like a sign at the end of a path. You can't stand on a sign. It points and dissolves. Try to inhabit it, and you build a new shrine dedicated to nothingness and move in. The shrine smells holy and feels safe. It is still a room in the same house. The prior is not a room. It is that by which houses and skies and lamps and films are conceivable at all. You can't lay a floor on it, hang a banner from it, or lose it behind a door. So we stop pretending we can possess it. Possession is for objects. The absolute is not an object. We also stop pretending we must defend it. Defense is for positions. The absolute has none. What follows is not a trance, but a kind of ordinary fearlessness. Fear may appear. It won't recruit a self to wear it. Joy may appear. It won't be hoarded to prove enlightenment. Silence may appear. It won't be performed. The traffic of life continues, freed from the toll booth where you used to pay with identity. The practicality is simple. When the urge to certify your existence flares through success, purity, superiority, or martyrdom, notice what that urge is begging for: a center. Let the center fail to appear. Life moves anyway. Emails get sent. Apologies land. Breakfast tastes like breakfast. The absolute adds nothing and removes nothing. It undoes the need for additions and removals. With the center retired, precision gets easier because there are fewer hands on the wheel. Love gets quieter because there is no ledger to balance. We won't build a technique for this part. Techniques live in time. Instead, keep two clean checks nearby. If it begins, it isn't you. If it can be owned, it isn't you. Everything else is permission to live. This isn't nihilism. In Silk, it's intimacy without a guard at the gate. From here, integration is not lofty. It is the same day without the tax of pretending to be the light. Next, we'll talk about that day, how work, speech, and closeness change when nothing has to hold the sky up. Integration isn't a posture. It's a day that no longer pays a tax to keep a center alive. After the search quiets and the lamps are seen as lamps, Life doesn't float into abstraction. It lands. Emails still arrive. Dishes still stack. A friend still needs help moving a sofa on the hottest day of the year. The difference is friction. Without a self to certify, tasks stop auditioning for meaning. You do the next exact thing because it is the next exact thing, not because it props up the story of who you are. Start with work. Formerly, you wrote to impress an invisible panel, the imagined readers who might finally confirm you exist. Now the panel dissolves, and precision replaces performance. You open the inbox and triage without theater. Reply, schedule, delete, defer. The beam narrows when a problem needs a clean edge, then widens when a decision needs context. You no longer mistake modes for identity. Fatigue signals rest. Instead of becoming a referendum on character, failure becomes information rather than a verdict. Meetings shrink because you speak to the point you can actually move, and you stop volunteering to carry problems that only exist to keep a persona busy. In conversation, the shift is obvious in the body before it is obvious in words. Defensiveness used to jump the cue and speak first. Now a breath arrives between the spark and the sentence, not because you're performing calm, but because there is nothing to defend. You can hear what is really being asked, instead of fighting a projection. You can apologize without smuggling a self-portrait of humility into the apology. Boundaries arrive like punctuation, clear, brief, not a monologue. Saying no does not require a 12-point essay. Saying yes does not put you in debt. You don't curate your tone to look awakened. You answer the human in front of you. Love clarifies, rather than dissolves into vagueness. Compassion is no longer a performance funded by fatigue. It is gravity. You help where you can because the help is obvious, and you step back where you can't because martyrdom has stopped being your currency. In the old arrangement, you kept score even when you swore you didn't, an internal ledger measuring who showed up for whom. Ledgerless. Closeness gets simple. You look after the living connection between you and the other, not the mythology that once guarded your image. Intimacy deepens precisely because nothing is being hidden behind a costume of virtue. Ethics simplifies too, not as a code you grip, but as a natural consequence of less confusion. When identification loosens, the nervous system isn't burning watts defending an image, so it can register subtlety. You notice how your joke lands, and you adjust. You catch the tug to manipulate, and it dissolves before it becomes a move. Responsibility remains, but the flavor changes. Repair isn't a penance to purify the self. It's what clarity does when something's out of tune. Shame loses its sacred status and returns to being whether something you can feel without turning into it. Accountability stops being a performance and becomes a quiet habit. Ordinary joy returns from exile. A cup of tea is a cup of tea again, not a ceremony to prove mindfulness. Music is just music. A quiet walk doesn't need to be photographed to exist. Because life doesn't have to perform for a witness, it moves closer. The world feels more intimate precisely because you've stopped auditioning for it. The dreamlike recognition from earlier doesn't turn you into a ghost. It lets you be local without being trapped. You can give yourself fully to a scene, football in the park, code on a screen, a child's question at bedtime, without secretly negotiating for identity points. Reality also gets sterner where you once hid behind metaphors. If practice left a trail of avoided conversations, you start making calls. If your peace depended on other people carrying your unfinished business, you collect it and carry it yourself. Clarity is not indulgent, it is exact. It notices when you're using spirituality to dodge the bill, and it pays the bill. It notices when you're calling laziness trust, and it picks up the broom. It notices when you're confusing self-abandonment with compassion, and it restores the boundary without theater. Not everything becomes easy. Everything becomes workable. Grief still buckles the knees. Change still rearranges your plans. Pain still visits, and sometimes it stays. The difference is the absence of the secondary storm, the story about what the first storm says about you. Without that weather system, there is room to respond. You ask for help because dignity is no longer a guard at the door. You rest because exhaustion is information, not failure. You begin again because beginning again is what life does. The heart stops auditioning. It starts participating. Small experiments confirm the shift. In a meeting you once derailed with a clever speech, you ask one precise question instead. In a family argument, you name the actual issue rather than litigating every year that came before. On the motorway, someone cuts you up and the surge rises. You feel it, then you feel the space around it, and you let the scene pass without writing a play. You reply to the message that matters and leave the others for later without guilt. None of this is heroic. It's what happens when the light is trusted to show the scene without auditioning a star. If you want a measure that doesn't turn into a stick, use this. The gap between impulse and action grows by a breath. The time you spend narrating shrinks. The number of apologies you need to make stays honest, but declines. You will still contradict yourself, forget yourself, and occasionally sell yourself a story. That is fine. Seeing it sooner is the only sophistication worth the word. The rest is furniture moving. We're close to closing the circle. Hermetic wisdom says, all is mind, and used as medicine it can return power to the one who forgot they had any. Used as a summit, it traps you in the play. Mind is not the peak, it is the stage. Thoth's hard kindness here is to use the stage to recognize what the stage can never hold. From that recognition, you don't leave the theater. You stop mistaking the role for the one who is reading these lines now. All is mind is a brilliant medicine and a poor summit. Mind is the theater where gods, men, and meanings appear. It is not the crown above them. Thoth, the scribe, cataloged forms, so we wouldn't be ruled by them letters, laws, correspondences, measures not to freeze reality in ink, but to give you a ruler that proves everything measured is on the page. Use the ruler, then put it down. As above, so below is not an ontological prison, it is a navigation aid. Patterns echo across scales because the projector is consistent. The echo is not the absolute. When the map is recognized as map, you can walk without superstition. When the stage is recognized as stage, you can speak the line without becoming the role. This, finally, is the refinement Hermeticism begs for in our time. The mind's play is exquisite, and it matters contracts, medicines, bridges, songs, but mistaking the play for the peak keeps you looking for a better balcony when there is no building at all. The person looked for status and safety. The witness looked for altitude. The I am looked for purity. Each move was kinder than the last. Each cut closer to the bone, and each still offered a belt you could tighten to feel secure. The absolute does not require a belt. It does not require you. It is that by which you and belts and stages are conceivable. Seeing this doesn't exile you from mind. It returns mind to its job, tool, not throne. This is why Thoth's medicine is ruthless clarity. He will not let you hide in cleverness or hide from cleverness. Both are costumes. He offers a ledger so you can see where debt and credit are fictions, a set of correspondences so you can watch resonance without worshiping it, a grammar so you can speak cleanly and then stop speaking. In that kindness, magic loses its glamour and keeps its utility. You can bless a room without pretending to own the sky. You can read a sigil as a psychological instrument without turning it into a passport. You can touch the old rites and feel their human intelligence without kneeling to the image you project onto them. What remains after the costumes fall is not a blank monkish hallway. It is your exact life, undecorated, work that serves what's in front of you, because that's what hands are for. Love that is intimate because it has no ledger to balance. Boundaries that arrive like punctuation, not theater. Speech that chooses the shortest true sentence. Repair that doesn't polish a self. And celebration that doesn't need witnesses. The light shows the scene and the scene is enough. On a Tuesday you make soup, and it is only soup. On a Friday you bury your father, and grief breaks you open without becoming a project. On a quiet morning, a child climbs into your lap, and the world ends in the sound of their breath. None of this proves anything, and nothing needs proof. If you want one portable check for the rest of your days, carry this. If it starts, it isn't you. If it changes, it isn't you. If it can be described, it's already on the screen. Everything that fails the test is welcome. You don't need to kill thoughts to be free of them, or suppress feeling to keep the light clean. The light has never been dirty. You don't need to protect awareness from experience. Awareness has never been injured. You don't have to pretend indifference to avoid attachment. You simply see attachment as weather and act according to the season. You'll still contradict yourself. You'll still forget and remember and forget again. Clarity is not a pose you hold. It is what remains when you tire of performing. So the circle closes where it should have begun. Person witness being prior was never a staircase to climb. It is a set of labels peeled off the same jar. The content can stay work, study, sex, art, duty, rest. The glue is what's gone. If you find yourself rebuilding the label good, you see it faster. Peel again. If you find yourself preaching the label as jar as a new sermon, good. You see the sermon too. Peel again. You are not being asked to live in conclusions. You are being invited to live without needing them. The film rolls, and you don't need the credits to certify that it was real. Before we end, be practical. Keep the few tools that work and fire the rest. Sit when it's kind. Breathe when it's noisy. Ask, who is aware of the witness when superiority perfumes the room? Taste I am when you've forgotten the bass note, and then watch even that sweetness be seen. Use dreamlike to take the glue out of panic, and then answer the email, pay the bill, make the call. Walk outside often. Let daylight do its quiet work. Read old sentences if they make you honest. Drop them if they make you heavy. If a tradition helps you love better, you don't need a story to justify it. If a practice makes you smaller, you don't need a story to keep it. If this landed, don't leave the deeper drills on the table. Join our free newsletter via the link in the description. For a limited time, you'll receive a free ebook copy when you enter your email, and you won't miss what we can't post here. If you feel this on a deep level, comment, I get the code.